Oh my goodness.
Hello, welcome.
This is nice and cozy. Yeah, you can hear us without these mics.
Yes.
Much better.
I have a mic.
It's inside.
Yes, my mic is right here. Right? Everyone can hear me, right? Yes.
So glad to have you back with us. We missed you in
Yes.
Chicago. So happy
Yeah.
you're able to be here.
Thanks.
Amazing. So I want to ask you guys individual questions about some other projects besides Pet Sematary. And then we'll turn it loose for the audience to ask what they want to about anything, okay?
About anything?
It's up to them.
Okay.
Charge extra.
Be
if you wanna talk
nice,
about
be
that.
nice.
All right, Miss Denise. You know that I am such a huge fan of Dolly Dearest.
Whoa.
Do we have any Dolly Dearest fans here? A few, yeah?
God, wow, it was you guys that watched the movie. Okay, great.
Can you talk about your experiences filming that?
Oh my goodness, that was pretty cool. What a cast. Okay, Sam Bottoms, just great. Wow, you're making me work here. Rip Torn, one of the great American, actors of theater, and probably one of the most difficult men to ever work with, ever. But he was kind to me, but he took no prisoners. I mean, you had to have your shit together to work with him. He was, he had been married. You guys know I'm giving you a little Americana theater experience. I mean, he and Geraldine Page were probably two of the great American theater actors in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, right? I mean, the great, they had done all the New York plays. They were regarded as, the great plays, great actors of the stage, but they were crazy, because they were alcoholic, crazy people, and they just burnt through a lot of stuff. But they were genius, and it was wild. I was, I had of course known of his work for so long, and was, such a admirer of his legacy and Geraldine's. When you start out acting, you kind of look at these women that really blazed a trail, really changed the dynamics of acting in America, and Geraldine Page definitely was one. So Dolly Dearest was just this quirky, odd little film. The director it was her first movie. She'd been a script supervisor on NYPD Blue, a great breakout television series, and she was being given a chance to direct. So it was just wonderful. And Sam Bottoms, all I did was mine his stories of Apocalypse Now. He was in, one of the great American movies, Apocalypse Now. And from a storied American theater family. Joseph Bottoms, Sam Bottoms, Timothy Bottoms, we're talking, this incredible family. So it was really crazy and fun and weird, and I love that you love this movie. I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. Now wait, I had already done Pet Sematary. Yes, of course. I'm trying to think.
Well, barely. I mean,
it was right after. Yeah.
Maybe.
It was just after. So I was in full, genre horror mode.
Yeah.
I was playing all the moms of the, nutcases out there, and so
bad children.
Yeah, with the weird, troubled children.
You're a terrible mother.
I was a great mother. Great mother. Just because died and came back.
Had to run off.
Wasn't my problem. Blame her father for that
Where is he? Absent again.
one. Absent father, of course. Typical.
Bury him and run away.
Yep.
Miko.
Hi.
Noshing on pizza as per usual.
It's my blanket. It's my safety
It's
blanket.
tradition. For those of you guys who missed it a couple years ago, and Indy became on stage with a plate of pizza, and so now it's tradition.
It was like a thing.
It's a thing.
I never have time to eat. Put it in my
He's
pocket.
still eating it.
He's always taking bites of it, but it never goes away.
It's
Ever.
'cause
We go without
It's
this.
like a job
slice of
stomper.
pizza. It's been years.
It keeps growing
It's
back.
like movie food, right? It just doesn't go anywhere.
Well, there's never really time to eat at the table.
There
It's
never
always
is.
so busy, so it kind of works out.
Well, that's
Just try to be efficient.
Well, honestly, that's what people need to understand. Because someone actually left a really rude comment on YouTube on that panel.
Because of my eating pizza?
Yes, and I'm like, yo, I sit down, and it's like they have to be at their table for sometimes 8 or 10 hours at a time with barely any breaks, and they're people too, and they're hungry, and they need the chance to go and eat. And this is when you can find a chance to get a slice of pizza real quick.
Haters make me famous. I appreciate that comment.
I didn't delete it; I just commented on it.
I don't know. I never saw it. I gotta go look. now. I'm
Right.
curious.
I don't know. Maybe after that response, they might have deleted it. Sometimes that happens
Whatever.
too.
I don't know.
Anyhow, I would love to know about some of the challenges and how did you prepare for the role of playing a nonverbal autistic preteen in Baywatch.
In Baywatch.
Ooh,
Right.
it was quite
Deep
a
cut.
role for you, though.
She's good with the deep cuts.
Yeah.
man. She likes to throw them curveballs.
Right.
Like you see
Just
it coming,
wait.
and you swing, and it goes the other way. Like, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. So because of Mercury Rising, I played an autistic character in Mercury Rising, and worked really hard on that character, maybe more than any other, just like preparing and learning about autism and trying to build the character and embody it. And during the filming of Mercury Rising, that was just for the audition process. And then once it was booked, the production company kind of linked us up with this doctor out of Chicago where we filmed, who was world renowned in autism, and there was a school there, and I worked with him and went to school, kind of like worked on a character, bringing in different elements of different kids that went to that school, and then for a month we worked on it, and by the end I was like going to school every day with the kids, like in the classroom, and really just trying to make sure the character was dialed in. And then I forget how long, maybe not too long after, Baywatch reached out for a lifeguard scene. No, for,
Pamela Anderson's lover.
yeah, she was like, I have to have him on the show.
This
I
was
want him so
post-camp.
bad.
The sex tape.
Yeah, and then we used AI to put it No. So yeah, so they had this episode that had an autistic character in it, and they asked me to kind of either modify or reprise in one way or another the role of Simon, because the other production company had already invested all the time to make sure it was accurate, and they're like, hey, can you play this character for that episode? And I got to go to Hawaii for a week, and that was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Good question. That was unexpected.
Okay, Brad.
Uh-oh.
You know, part of me says I should really ask about Annabelle's creation, but my heart and my little nerdy heart, I've already hit Denise on this before, wants to know about Diagnosis Murder.
Diagnosis of murder.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Do any of you remember Diagnosis Murder? Yeah? Okay, good.
I did too.
2 episodes, Denise did.
You did? Oh, yeah, Dick Van Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
best.
that was like working with this icon, and I like for the first day on the shoot, I was just flabbergasted that I was, that I was working with Dick Van Dyke, and I couldn't even talk to him because I was like, blah, 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 right? And he was, he was in between shots, in between cut and take two, he was on the set. He was reciting Shakespeare, and I had never realized what a beautiful voice he has, because he never shows off his voice in all of his movies and his on the Dick Van Dyke Show and all of that. He never shows it off. Yeah, so he was doing Henry V on the set of Diagnosis Murder, and then we had a big conversation because I know that he had been at Stan Laurel's funeral of Laurel and Hardy, right? And we talked about Stan Laurel and Charlie Chaplin and all those great comedians. I know this is kind of part of where I started with all this. I read, when I was a teenager, I read so many books, and I would go to see every silent movie I could. Like I would go to these big theaters where there were screenings, and I would like sit in libraries where it never even gets dark enough to watch a black and white film, but I would be there and watch it, and there's one guy in the back who's going, so we talked a great deal about that, because this was a common interest of both of ours, and that was just priceless for me. It was absolutely priceless, And I asked him if he had ever met Chaplin, and he said, no, I never met Charlie Chaplin, but when I was on Broadway, before I had done any films, apparently Chaplin had seen him in this Broadway show, I don't even know what it was, and had written a letter to somebody in Hollywood saying, this young man is a great comedian, hire him. But I'm not sure how that whole, and then shortly after that, Dick Van Dyke came to Hollywood, and so anyway, that's, I haven't talked about what I did on the thing because it's kind of inconsequential. Really, working with somebody like Dick Van Dyke, I mean, it's like your story.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think I played an aerobics instructor. Speaking of Dick Van Dyke, though, he loves Halloween more than anything. I mean, just because we're at Days of the Dead, I just have to throw that out. He goes all out for Halloween. His home, he lives in Malibu, on the beach, and he tricks out his house. Do you know that? Do you know about that? Okay, because you were nodding your head. I thought maybe you had read something. I mean, this is his, Christmas on steroids. Yeah, he just goes nuts. And I always wanted to go out there and try to find it, I don't know, yeah.
Find the Halloween Griswold house. You're like, that's the one. That's Dick's.
Yeah, that's Dick's house.
Yes.
But we were on set and we were working, and he was very happy to talk. He was telling me stories for hours about, mostly about Stan Laurel and Laurel and Hardy, and working with Stan Laurel, and that's what led to Chaplin, because Stan Laurel was Charlie Chaplin's understudy in the theater before either of them had made films. And and he took this time, and he was telling me all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do that. He could have, cut it short because he has to prep for the next scene or whatnot, But he didn't. He was so generous and so pleasant.
So kind.
Yes.
Really
absolutely.
kind.
Yeah. So that's my story.
It's an amazing story.
And nobody has ever asked me about that.
Yes.
Phew. All I can say is phew, because I've done some things that very embarrassing.
Need to be asked. Need to be questioned.
All right, Andy.
Okay, I'm gonna stump you, right?
Not necessarily. You don't have a very extensive film career.
No, I do not.
Booth Steel's the only thing I found.
Exactly, right? That's it.
But I'm a big theater nerd. We just talked about it a little
Okay.
bit, right? In fact, he doesn't know this that much. One of my theater mentors is right there in the second row with the beard. He doesn't know he was my mentor, but I used to watch him and try to learn from everything that he was doing when we were in a theater together, right?
Yeah.
So he's here, and it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're a big theater guy, and you've done a lot of theater, right? Yes, like yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Can Can you tell us a memorable story from a favorite memorable story from a play or musical or whatever you've done?
Jeez, well, they were all mostly plays. A memorable story.
Mhm.
Oh my God, we got to get more specific than that. Let me think. Oh, jeez.
Andrew has told me all of his memorable
Can
stories.
you remember any of my memorable
Yes, so here's my memorable
The most embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember.
When we met each other, it was in the makeup trailer, right?
Yes.
On Pet Sematary up in
Yeah.
Maine, and I come in and he's like got this thing on his body and all that, and he's in the middle of being made up, and we just started talking, and we were talking about New York theater.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
We were talking all about, you know.
You were also comforting me because I was scared shitless. You were very nice to
I
me.
didn't know that part,
Yes.
but we like hit it off on talking about what was, because you were in New York at that time.
Yeah.
Yes. And have you seen this? Have you seen that? Was
Yeah.
this any good? Was that any good? You know.
Yeah.
That was, you know, that's like.
That was nice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And we
Makes
still,
you feel good.
when we're together,
Feel
when
good.
you know, when we're not signing autographs and stuff, we're like, okay, so because he played Hamlet in Hamlet, and I'm always like, what about that line? What about that line that Claudius has? How did you handle that? Right, all this little minutia that nobody else is going to be interested in.
That's amazing.
And we're always talking about theater, constantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I love talking to you.
Yeah.
Because actually, you know, what Andrew did was kind of that was what I had imagined for myself. I went to New York from Virginia, and my goal was to audition for everything that I could in New York, so that I could learn how to audition, and then I would go to a place, a smaller market like Minneapolis, and do theater. And I thought I would have the career that you had. That was the plan. But like 1 year and 8 months into my 2-year stay in New York, I started booking film and TV.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. But you know, so I had to go with that, which really shocked me.
Yeah.
But we've always had this bond over theater,
Beautiful.
and it's lasted all these years.
I
all
love
these
that.
years.
It's amazing, right? Right.
Thank you for
Yay!
I'm sorry I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you.
for
That's what I needed.
I'm his ventriloquist.
So you mentioned that you were in the makeup trailer getting made up to be your creepy, scary Zelda who's
Yeah.
getting ready to scare us shitless, but you were scared shitless.
I was
First,
yes.
Can you
That's
tell
part
us
of-
about that process of being scared in the makeup? Like what happened? Why were you scared?
Well, it was like a cumulative effect because I think it was shot in Maine, right? The movie, and it was the last 2 days of shooting where when I showed up, and I remember having to borrow money in a cab to get a cab to the airport because I had no idea how to get to the airport in New York, and I was sleeping on my brother's couch and like living that kind of life. And like, so I got to Maine, and they drove me around, and it was really my first experience of doing film. So I was pretty scared. I didn't know what the process was like, and so what you see on the film is my own terror kind of coming out, and that's really kind of what it is, and you know that's.
It works.
It worked. I was using my reality at the time to fulfill my role.
Aww. Do we have any audience questions? In the back.
How does it feel being the first person to kill, what's his name on screen? Talking about,
Herman Munster?
yeah.
Ready.
Yeah, it was. My parents said that I adored him. I wish I remembered more. I hear he was a great guy. I think it was just fantastic. In Pet Sematary, I was 27 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, because my memory goes as far back as 5. Do you remember?
I think because it's been such a big part of my life, it's some of my earliest memories, just everything about it, like parents talking about it, the stories, just constantly being reminded of it.
Yeah.
So yes and no. The actual, like, through my eyeballs being there, not so much.
Uh-huh.
But I do feel like there's a lot of memories of memories
Oh, yeah.
of like remembering it being young. Like I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Oh, I know.
When I was 16, we went back to the house where it was filmed, and the family was really nice and let us go in and kind of take a little tour and whatnot. And I couldn't tell you where anything was like by memory, but I would walk through a doorway and everything would be immediately familiar. It'd be like, oh, this is that room. I've been in this room. I've been in that room. I've been in all these rooms.
So that was filmed in a real house, like the inside.
Yeah.
It was the real
A
interiors.
practical.
It wasn't a set.
Creed House
Not
was
at
a
all.
house. Yeah, was it next door? There was another house and a facade was built so that they could burn it to be Judd's house.
But Judd's house, as in the book, was across the street.
Yes,
They found that
Like
location,
that's
it's a
not
mirror in the
even
book.
Right.
done ever.
on the desolate road.
Yes,
I-
on a road that, was exactly what is in the book.
Which leads me to ask, what inspired all of you guys to be a part of this project? What was it about Pet Sematary? And was it the creators behind it, or the story? Obviously,
They paid us.
They paid us.
We were looking for a job.
We needed a job. Oh my God, we're so lucky. We got a acting job. Yeah, no, we had
Well, they
no.
didn't approach us, we approached them.
But that was during a writer's strike.
Really?
Was it?
Yeah, nobody was working.
Well,
Yeah, 1988 writer's strike.
Wow, I can't, for me, I knew the director because I had done some music videos with her. And she came out of that discipline, music. They were, in the 80s, they were plucking a lot of music directors, music video directors, excuse me. And so she and I we were friends, but I had to test. I had to do a screen test, at Paramount to get the role. It was me and Rebecca De Mornay. And Mary really wanted me to do it, but she had to go through the process, the studio. And I think Rebecca had already done Risky Business, if I'm not mistaken. So I was up against, a major, hot chick in Hollywood, and it was Dale and another guy, I remember, and I tested with both, as Rebecca tested with both, and Mary called me that night and said, who do you think should play Lewis? And I said, I think Dale. So he owes me. Yeah.
And he's
What
never
is-
paid up that
No,
much.
he's never.
what is it about, like, for everyone? What is it about, like, a certain director that really resonates with you, where you make that connection, where they allow you to be, create the character that you guys wish to create?
They
What is
pay
it about
us.
that? Again,
Well,
he's still eating the pizza.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough, to be in that position
Yeah.
where, you're collaborating with an interesting director, it's such a wonderful collaboration. But your job is to try to get their vision, to understand their vision. I believe. The director is creating this movie, okay? So my job is to understand what they're trying to do and trying to get, and can we find it together?
Communication is
It's all of that. It's collaboration, it's communication, and hopefully it jives.
It's
You
symbiotic.
find it together.
That's amazing.
Conversely, if you're working with a director that does not communicate with you other than to tell you what to do and doesn't say that was good, that was not good, it's just like when he or she gets the cut, they just say moving on. then it's just work.
Mm.
It's really hard because you don't have a connection with the director, and it
Then you
makes
get the
everything.
remake.
Yeah, and it makes everything really hard
Mhm.
then, because you're just shooting in the dark, and then you do what you think is best, and you don't know. It's easier to collaborate, you know, and it's better for the project. But some directors just don't communicate,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's difficult.
Yeah.
Even in the real world, you know, we have managers, we work at our jobs, and we have
Yes.
managers that are
Mhm.
good communicators, and you just there and you show up, and you don't really, you're not passionate about what you do, but I imagine it's the same even with creative artists,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and there are directors that get actors,
Mhm.
that get what we do, and there's directors that don't give a shit about what we do. They want, you know, they just want what they have. It's just fill in the blanks.
They
For
may
me.
specialize in
Get
a
it?
different area.
Yeah.
Some are
they're-
more actors, directors.
Right.
and some
They're, it's a story. I'm trying to tell a story. I'm trying to get the shot. I'm trying to make a car crash. I'm trying to, you know, I don't, whatever you got, you know, don't tell me about what you feel or you think this person, you know, may have lost their daughter and you might, you know, you might have a little, can I do it this way or that? They just shut up and just, you know,
Just do it.
hit the mark,
Yeah.
say the line, and, you know, I don't have time for this. They have no interest in that.
Yeah.
What's more common, not being a part of that world, what's more common? What kind of directors, or is it
Well-
just a mixed bag?
Depends on the project.
I think it's much more common what I just said, actually. I think it's a real auteur, really interesting director that gets the acting process and is willing to collaborate in that way. I mean, television for sure is rare that way.
Right.
Mm.
Television is just, you are a hired guy, the guy next. Now, that's not to say a lot of these streaming, these limited series streaming thing, there is the one guy in charge, okay? He's kind of directing almost all of them, writing almost all of them. It's his vision. But a lot of times in television, next week is someone else, next week is someone else, next week. And their whole thing is just to, in 7 days or 8 days or 9 days of shooting, I gotta deliver the project. And they're out of there.
It's their job.
They
is
have
done.
no,
You
yeah,
can't
they have
cast
no skin in the game. They're just hired for that episode.
it. They assume once you got the job, you're there, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, that's on you. Because
Yeah.
you have to move on.
What was that on the set of Full House, for example? Was that like that?
That was, oh gosh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was very,
Laid back?
sitcoms are a different vibe, for
Yeah.
sure. It's more like a play.
Yeah.
You have almost a week of rehearsal, and then you film on Friday night, and there's an audience. But by then, you're so rehearsed. It's very. The only difference is pausing for the laughter. At first, it's like, oh, this is a different timing. You gotta wait, like that little gear change. But then the energy is different, so it feels like it gives you a little extra, like,
Fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's more like power behind it because you got the energy in the room with everybody.
So when they were filming Full House, because you did several episodes on that,
Sure.
how did they do that? Did they just film like all the kids stuff first and get y'all out, and
No.
or was it filmed in sequence?
No, it's like yeah.
Yeah?
I think it's filmed in sequence. I'm trying to remember if there was a reason why they would ever film. I mean, if there was like a rare shot that wasn't on the studio, there was. I think we did one episode on like a soccer field,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of scenes intercut that were filmed like separately. But yeah, for the most part, it's kind of played out like a play.
Yeah.
It's probably not quite as entertaining for the audience, to be honest, because they do multiple takes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now we're going to do that whole scene
Hours.
again. Yeah, so you see the same scene of the sitcom 4 or 5 times, and then there's a break, and they have a guy in the audience who's kind of like a comedian. He just kind of keeps the energy up to like do crowd work and kind of riff, and they'll have little, oh, here's facts about the show to keep the audience's energy up. While they reset, move all the cameras, wardrobe changes, whatever else that needs to be, and then they switch the lights. It's like a big room, and the cameras can slide and move on the floor, and there's different. It's like the fourth wall isn't there. Modern sitcoms are more shot like traditional narrative now. They don't do the 3 camera stuff as much anymore with the audience. They're still called sitcoms, but back in the day, that's always how they were. Like the Friends and the Seinfeld.
3 cameras, yeah.
Because it's always that one wall that's open,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
so you could just pan, and then it's like there's the New York Street, there's the bedroom, it's just all one big long strip essentially. And then usually they'll have one set that's like new for the episode that'll be built within like the living room that's always there that
Yeah.
just stays. So they'll turn the lights down on one, turn the lights up on the other, reset. And then you go through and do it again 3, 4, 5 times. Sometimes if you mess up in the middle, they'll do a pickup. So it's like pick up right from that spot, a line or two before, and then they cut it all together. So when you watch it, it's not like totally like a play. It's still, there's takes, but it does have that energy.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to say I heard this story, and I could be wrong because it's been a while, but I think that, what you're talking about, the crowd warmer,
Yeah.
that's how Bob Saget got his start.
Very possible.
I'm
I don't know.
pretty
but,
sure
yeah,
he was working on another sitcom doing that.
Really? Yeah.
I want to say I
Possibly.
heard that after.
Well, he was a
it
stand-up
passed.
comedian.
Yeah, and then he started
Yeah.
getting jobs because of that.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right.
That's cool.
I mean, I hope I'm right, but I know I
It
heard
wouldn't
that.
surprise me.
Pretty sure.
During Pet Sematary, did anything I'm just curious, did anything unusual happen while filming?
Like supernatural, unusual,
Or
or
anything
I mean, like
unusual?
that time all animals came up out of the like that. Yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
What?
And all the ghosts, they were so caught. Get rid of the ghost. Get the ghost out of the shot. Go again. Oh, the ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
The ghost wrangler had to shoo him away.
The only time I've ever been in a car driving down a dark highway, I hit an animal on the highway. The only time.
We almost hit a bird today, actually.
I almost hit a bird?
We
Oh, you guys
we
almost hit a
hit
bird.
a bird.
Yeah, you gotta be careful when you're conjuring this Pet Cemetery stuff, But and it was the day that I filmed his funeral.
oh my God. So you're already a mess.
I was a mess. I was toast. And I was driving home to my haunted beach cottage in the dark depths of the Maine woods, alone, spent at night, and a fox ran out in front of my car. And I think I touched it, and I stopped. And only the headlights on a main dark road and I'm looking for the fox, and I'm crying, and I can't find the fox, and I, am still crying, and left a horrible message to my husband and on the answering machine, unintelligible message. But I thought, oh my God, I shouldn't be making this movie called Pet Sematary. I'm killing animals now. And I couldn't find the fox. I hope, in my mind, it ran off and had, baby foxes and lived a very happy life in the woods of Maine. But that was interesting. I've never hit an animal on the road. I've been driving a while now, and I just, never happened again.
You could have thrown it in the trunk and just taken it to set the next day.
We used it. We could have used it on set. On set, yeah. So this Halloween, I'm thinking about doing a whole Pet Cemetery thing in my front yard. I talked to Greg Nicotero. Remember we saw Greg in Vegas this last year. And I said, I've always wanted to do for Halloween a whole Pet Cemetery, replicate the Pet Cemetery in the movie. And not, I'm not going to say, oh, this is Rachel Creed lives here. No, but just do the Pet Cemetery, thing. And he goes, dude, I can do that for you, okay? That's my experience. I said, so I'm gonna hit him up and see if he can do a Pet Cemetery. Well, you guys, we should all come to my house and sit out there and give candy. And I'll go, I'm not sure about this. This is kind of weird, right? Don't they look like the people in the movie? Would that be?
Not so much you.
Wouldn't that be cool?
We should all dress up as each other's characters.
I'm Zelda.
Yeah. Pascal.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that means I'm
I think that would be so cool. And just like not say anything, but we're all there at my house.
What's up?
That'd be weird.
Do you get a lot of trick or treaters at your house?
No. I mean, it depends on the you know, how many, you know, different generations, different, you know, it depends how many kids are, you know, on the street at any given time. Like they're all grown, like my son and all his buddies are now like 26, so, you know, no one, but that was a whole group of little kids, so we got a lot. And now I don't know what this next brood looks like, so, yeah, the next gen.
So you had a question?
Yeah. All of you died except for you kind of died twice. You hit by a truck and then later set on fire. Now that you're old enough to understand what happened in the movie, how do you feel about somebody being set on fire?
It's kind of fucked up. I don't know.
It's kind of cool.
No, yeah, it's super dark. I think it ends the way it needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. The story accomplishes what it needs to.
Yeah. And you had one, yeah?
Just a quick question, Nico, where'd you find that pizza?
It was a prop. I had to have it special made.
For this.
No,
Carrying it around.
It was in my suitcase. It was in there's like a green room, like I don't know, part of the con.
Break room.
It was break room. It was the last slice and it had been out for 2 hours. It was actually terrible.
But when you're hungry, you're hungry.
But it, you know.
So typical movie crafty.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Papa John's is mid.
Yeah. Warm would have been better, but it was good.
So I think Denise, you had most screen time with Fred Gwynn, I think. I think a lot of us, before Pet Sematary, Fred Gwynn, we know him as the goofy Harmon Monster.
Sure.
And then in that movie, he seemed like he was perfect for the part. Do you have any interesting stories with him on the set or anything?
He was perfect for that part. It was just a pleasure to get to be in Maine with him 2 weeks prior to shooting.
And he had the accent down perfect.
Oh my God. I mean, that's a really difficult accent to do. Really difficult. And, you know, he just was this gentle soul, this beautiful, giving, generous actor. You know, we talk about generous actors. There are actors, you know, some actors they only care about themselves, you know, that's all they care about. Other actors want everyone to, you know, everybody to be good. And how do I make you be good? Or how do I make the show be good? And, you know, that was his intention. And he was very grounded. He had been through so much, many different careers, ups and downs, and was willing to share that and give that to us who were all just young, beginning our careers, you know, to kind of share that about, you know, what this can look like, what this business is, what it could, you know, you're up, you're down, you're you know, you don't know what it's ever going to be, and can you keep it together through all of it? And he did. You know, he was extraordinary. You know, we see the great parts and the famous parts that he played, but he was in between those parts. He was not. He had to start over. He was not hireable. Television back in the day when, you know, the Munsters was on television, television was where you went to die as an actor. You know, it was you were typecast. I mean, he was so typecast, he could not get arrested. He went from you know, the top of television fame to zero. Could not get a job. And went back to New York and started back in the theater and took whatever, he had kids, he had forget it, he sold his house, but he had to make a living. And he did anything he could and just did the grind, did the work. Just put his, and there's something about that, well, there's everything about that is really respected, it's really respectable and honest and real,
Who was this again? I'm sorry. He said the name.
Fred Gwynn.
Oh, wow.
Judd.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he, nor does any, but he shared that. And I think he shared that in a way to be able to let us know that was, that's what this is. That's what this life as an actor is. It's not fame, it's not money, it's not stardom, it's work. You just work. Just do the work.
It reminds me of like WWE, for example, wrestling.
Yeah.
When you have a heel and you have a baby face, right? The good guy and the bad guy. And these wrestlers, they wrestle for the audience where, if one wrestler is really better than another wrestler, they'll make the other guy look better.
Right.
Because they're selling it to the audience.
Right.
And by selling it to the audience, the whole thing becomes
Well, it has
better
to
product.
Work. It has to
The
work
movie
in
becomes
that
a better
way.
product.
That works. That's the theatricality that works in.
Yeah.
But you see, actors a little bit different. In what we do is that you're responsible for your role.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, I don't care about if this movie works. I'm getting my paycheck. I'm out of here. And some actors, the really good ones, the really deep ones, care. They want everything. They want it. It's best to. It's in the spirit of generosity to make everything the best it can be. I don't understand why you wouldn't approach anything that way. It behooves, everyone wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it shows in the movie too because it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was extreme. Brad and I, we talked about this. He and I went to see the remake, which we were so excited to go see, and Brad and I, our kids have grown up together playing baseball, and we've remained friends for all these years. And he came over to my house. We walked to the local cinema, and we sat in there alone. They closed the movie theater for us to watch, and John Lithgow is absolutely one of the best working actors without a doubt.
Yeah.
But it's like Fred is Judd Crandall.
Yeah.
I just dropped the mic. He made us. He elevated us. He raised the bar. When I sat in that room for 2 weeks and read that script with Stephen King and Mary, the director, and Judd walked in going, "Oh yeah, I can't even do the accent, oh, if I may, whatever the hell he does." I went, okay, oh God, okay. I better really know what I'm doing.
Fred was Judd, to a T.
Yeah.
As written in the novel. And that's why it was so amazing.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
The page.
Yeah, it's like you manifested this character. He embodied it so well. I remember, you know, when the baby goes running, you know, and he swoops in, oh, you better not, you know, in the road, whatever he says. And I'm going, oh, thank you. And it was just, my God, there was no, I didn't feel I was acting. I was like, we were on this road, because the house is over there, the Creed house is over there, this is no set.
Didn't Mary shoot?
It was like out of the book.
Mary shot as chronologically as possible too. So.
For your benefit. So this is how brilliant she was and how brave she was, because, you know, and I hope I'm not talking too much. Okay. Usually when you shoot with kids, you have twins, as in, you know, Ellie they were twins, because of obvious reasons. You can't work these long hours. You can only work with children. They have to go to school. Blah blah blah. There's all these rules. So when Mary met Miko and saw Miko, it was like done. This is Gage. And I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure the producer said, yeah, but he doesn't have a twin. I mean, how are you going to shoot this movie? And she goes, I'll figure it out. It'll be harder, but no, this is my Gage. And they agreed. And so that meant, okay, how are you going to get a 2-year-old to kill their mother at the end of the film and come back from the dead and slash, you know, the neighbors, you know, and kill it, all this stuff. And Mary goes, because we're going to shoot in chronological order so that he's going to feel like he's going to camp. He cannot wait. By the time I dress him up in that little Edwardian, you know, velvet outfit, he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to get on the set. He was like, oh my God, I'm going to see my friends. He was like, Mommy and Daddy, go away. I'm with this Mommy and Daddy now, you know? And Judd, where's Judd? You know, I mean, he was just so willing, and Mary then could get him to do anything because he was totally trusting of the process, of the set. He felt safe with us. We were his. This was like, I'm doing this every day for months. I mean, we were there for months in Maine.
Wow.
Cool.
Very smart. I really smart.
So that's how you teach a kid to kill.
Fool him, trick him.
Yes.
Okay, Andy talked about this earlier, but this is for everyone also. All of you work under makeup in regards to the film. Even Nico was under a little bit of makeup in regards to his role, but I doubt he really remembers anything. So Denise and Brad, how was your experience under the makeup, and how long did it take for those particular effects for you both?
For me, it depended on what makeup we were doing, because there were 3 different versions of me depending on where we were chronologically in the movie. At the beginning, I'm not as veiny, and at the end, I'm very veiny. So we had 3 different looks for that, right? And those veins were all hand painted every time we shot. Every time they made us up. So for me, it was an average of 4 hours in the makeup chair, but if it was only going to be a close-up, they could get that done in 3 hours. If it was legs and everything, it can take like 5 hours. And then it was 2 hours to get it all off. And when we were shooting, see, the problem is I had this blood that had to glisten, you know? And it was on my hands. I couldn't touch anything, because anything that I touched would get the blood on my fingers on it, and I couldn't, like if I had an itch, I couldn't just do that. They gave me a chopstick to cut. the worst part was in the scenes where we were like, I was leading Lewis out to the pet cemetery. That was shot just after dusk, so it was dark, but the mosquitoes were still out. And the skull cap I had on, because you know, you bend your neck like this, there was a little bit of a wrinkle in the back, and those mosquitoes would crawl in there and go right up to the top of my head and start biting and just go to town. And all I could do was like poke at it, but I had that skull, that brain piece, so I'd be poking my brain with the chopstick because it itched so badly. Right? So that was difficult. But the other thing that was difficult is I had one cloudy contact in, so I couldn't really see much out of that eye, which meant I couldn't see distance. But I had to walk down that path. That path was not smooth. It wasn't a nice path like that. It was like so knowing that this is what we were going to have to do, before we started shooting, I just walked that path over and over and over for about an hour, learning every step, so that when I was walking, I knew, okay, take 2 steps and then you're going to go down a hill, and then move to the right because there's a hole, then move to the left, and then it's smooth. You know, I memorized it because I couldn't see it, right? And I couldn't be looking at my feet anyway, you know. So there were a lot of difficulties with it, but you know, the time in the makeup chair was actually great because David Anderson and his assistant John Blake were such fun people. We had a great time. And sometimes I would sleep, you know, but wearing the makeup was hard because I couldn't take my hands and do this. I couldn't do that. I had to like
Sit like this the whole time?
yeah, sit like this. No, not even like that because there's blood back there too. So I had to be like this, right, the whole time.
You're just Italian.
Oh, and the other thing, this is a funny story. Early on in the show, in the shoot, I had my makeup on, and we went. It was lunchtime, and so I sat down at these long tables with benches, and we were having spaghetti. And I sat down and started eating my spaghetti, and the crew guy next to me, after a little while, he turned to me and he said, "I'm sorry, Brad, I just can't do it. It's nothing personal, but." He got up with his plate of spaghetti and went and sat somewhere else because he was on the spaghetti side of the brain my makeup. And then the next person got up and the next person got up. And I realized, oh yeah, I guess it's pretty awful to look at this while you're eating spaghetti. So then I didn't eat lunch with the crew anymore. I just went to my trailer and ate because it was, you know, I understood. You know. And I didn't want to be known for chasing everyone away from the lunch.
Because do you know anything about your makeup process? Have you been told third party about it?
Yeah, they didn't want it to be too extensive because I probably wouldn't sit still that long. I think the ratings too were more sensitive then. You couldn't gore up a kid too much. I don't know if this is a false memory or what, or I remember talking about it, but not the actual memory. It was cold. I remember it being like the scar was very cold, and that was like jarring, but it, you know, I managed. It was fine. I know they didn't do as much as they could. I think Gage would have been limping around a lot more if it was. I think there'd be chunks. There'd be. I don't know.
Do you remember getting your hair bleached?
No. Well, my hair was blonde. When I was born, my hair was weird. When I was a baby, when I was born, it was jet black, and then my mom said it was like a switch that it just started growing in blonde. And it looked like, she said it looked like she had bleached the tips black because it switched to blonde, and then it slowly faded to like a brownish, and now it's kind of falling out. It's been a journey.
Right.
Denise, your makeup was pretty icky.
Oh,
Can we talk
yes.
about it before I let you go?
So my makeup took a good 4.5 hours. You know, and I was in the trailer with the guys, and I remember being, you know, because I had one eye completely, obviously covered, so they walked me to the set. And to bring me to Mary, she had never seen me. And Mary just went, oh my God, I'm sorry, I can't look at you. I can't look at you like that. Oh God, it's freaking me out. I said, Mary, you gotta look at me. You're directing me in the looking, okay? You gotta look, Mary, look. And she goes, oh my God, it's completely freaking me out. So it was amazing. And shot the scene, and we wrapped up and went back to LA. And then I get this call, we have to reshoot it. They want it even gorier. Which is, I've never heard, usually they want you to take it down a notch, but this, they wanted it, you know, more gory. So they wanted more ooze and pus coming out of my eyeball into Dale's mouth. And, you know, it was just like, come on. So I had to do, they on a Paramount soundstage, you know, just redid the exact set of our kitchen. And went back and shot it one more time.
Probably wasn't cheap.
Oh my God, no.
That was months.
Yeah.
Months later. Months later.
Did you have issues with your hair? Like, had it changed, grown, dyed?
No, because it was enough that they could you know, pull it off. But it was just, oh, really. And you know, those days too, they would do, like I had to do a full body cast, you know, at Lance Anderson's studio out in the valley. And you know, they don't even do that anymore. And oh my God, you guys, I had to do that, that full face, because you see, you know, I dropped, the mother drops hanging from the ceiling, you know, so that's obviously a, you know, full body dummy. But, oh my God, so they put that plaster on your face and you have to sit there for a few minutes for it to set, and you've got straws, right, in your nose. I'm claustrophobic. Okay.
I hear even non-claustrophobic people freak in that.
They're telling me, you know, they're talking me through it, and towards the end, I was like that, literally going like that. Get it off, get it off, get it off. And, you know, I mean, it was bad. You guys all had that same?
I don't remember what I had, but I went through that a lot for the Star Treks that I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but and that was like, it got better and better because the first ones were like plastic.
Full on.
Yeah.
Full on.
And then
and you feel it setting.
It's like
tightening.
And you're just sitting there going, oh, I'm gonna die! You know, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Wow.
No, you couldn't pay me enough to do that. No. Next. Not doing it.
Okay, I have one more wrap-up question before we set you guys loose. Are you ready?
Uh-oh.
I know, right? He knows me, so he's like, fuck you. If you could give your characters now any piece of advice, what would it be?
Put the aim on leash.
If we could give our characters a piece of advice.
What would? Oh, these yours.
Stay out of the road.
No regrets. I'd do it again.
I don't think I'd marry Louis Creed.
take your vitamins, get genetic testing.
Do yoga.
Well, for me, I think try again. You know, because what Pascal tried to do didn't work, but what he was trying to do was a guardian angel. And somehow in that, he did some good. And I would say, you know, just try it again. Don't give up.
Oh, it's a positive.
That's a good note to end on.
Give it up, yeah? 4. Let's all come to the front and take a photo, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh. Yes.
No, this is pretty. This is great.
Pardon me a second. I want to get right.
To Alex right here at the pink phone.
All right, ready? Okay.
Thank you,
Everybody just
Alex.
turn your heads this way.
Oh,
There you go.
thank you guys so much.
Got it.
1, thank you. 2, 3. Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Have a great night. Thank you, everybody.
Good to see you.
Andy, take care, man. You guys are amazing, all of you.